Pratishtha, your IELTS trainer, and in this video, we are going to be learning a little bit about reading. We are going to see how we will do mock tests, and in fact, we are going to do mock tests all 4 sections. So this video would really help you prepare for your reading exam. We have already learned strategies on how we can, excel in a reading test, but we will just take all those tips and learning tricks into practice, and we'll see how can we improve further. So with that being said, I will share my screen for the reading, and let me just okay. So we will take a full length IELTS reading mock test, right? So means we will be doing reading. We'll practice under timed conditions. We will develop strategies, right? So basically we have discussed strategies really. What we will do is we will just go ahead and answer, just like how we would do in IELTS, right? Then we'll analyze and review our performance. And that is pretty much the whole idea of today's class. So, what is the IELTS reading test? It contains 3 reading passages, right? And a variety of questions. We have 60 minutes to answer 40 questions, right? And we have true, false type questions, and we have multiple choice. We have matching headings to the paragraphs. And then we have sentence completion. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, those are the pretty much all the questions that's there. Usually passage 1 is a factual text, right? It will focus on specific information. Passage 2 is more complex, right? And it will look for connection between ideas and basically look at the writer's argument, what are his opinion. And in passage 3, we will focus more on academic text, right? Again, main arguments and the claims made by the academician. So again, 40 questions, 3 sections. We have 60 minutes. Again, you just do not have to focus more on spending time on questions, right? So do not spend more than 20 minutes of your time. Just skim through it, get a general idea, and focus on answering questions. Do not leave any questions out. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, right? So some common mistakes that we do, we have already discussed it. We don't skim the passage, right? And we just try to read it completely. So don't get into details. We misunderstand keywords. So make sure you are understanding what the keywords are. Make sure you know the synonyms, antonyms, all these things. We spend too much time on one particular question. So that should not be the case, right? And you ignore instructions. So it's important to read the questions properly and follow the instructions too. I would suggest practice speed reading. It will come with time. So the more you practice, the better you'll be at it. Focus on synonyms, focus on paraphrasing stuff, focus on, I would say, creating summaries. You need to practice with the IELTS reading test, right? So practice the official IELTS reading, and then, of course, review your mistakes as well. Now we are going to go ahead and do some reading. Right. So this is the passage 1, right? And we are going to talk about a chronicle of timekeeping, right? A chronicle of timekeeping suggests that something about how we measure time, right? And what's the story behind it. So, according to the archaeological evidence, at least 5,000 years ago, and long before the advent of Roman Empire, Babylonians began to measure time. So, this is where they began measuring time, introducing calendars to coordinate communal activities to plan the shipments of goods. They based their calendars on 3 natural cycles: the solar day, marked by successive periods of light and darkness as the Earth rotates; the lunar month, followed by the phases of moons; and solar year. So days, months, and year, right? Defined by changing seasons. Okay, it's pretty basic. So I would say, genesis of timekeeping, in fact, right? So before the invention of artificial light, the moon had greater social impact. So the importance of moon, I guess. right? And for those living near the equator in particular, its waxing and waning was more capricious than the passing of the seasons. Hence, the calendar that were developed at the lower latitudes were influenced more by lunar cycle than by solar year. Okay. In more northern climes, however, where seasonal agriculture were practiced, the solar year became more crucial. So, for different regions, for some it was days that was more important, for some months, and for some years. The Roman Empire expanded northward. It organized activity chart for the most part around the solar year. So the Roman Empire is talking about Roman Empire here, right? And let me talk about Romans. Centuries before Roman Empire, the Egyptians had formulated a municipal calendar having 12 months of 30 days with 5 added days to approximate the solar year. So Egyptians. Each period of 10 days was marked by the appearance of special groups of stars called decans. At the rise of these stars, Cyrus just before sunrise, which are okay. Tells to be seen spanning the heavens. The cosmic significance of Egyptians placed the 12 decans led them to develop a system in which each interval of darkness was divided into a dozen equal parts. Okay, so this is like the whole process of dividing hours into days. Dividing hours, dividing a day into hours. Okay, so with seasons, it changed, right? So with seasons, the time in the day changed, which is in the modern day called basically, I would guess, daylight savings. Summer hours were long, winters one short, only at the spring and the autumn's equinox. Equinoxes were the hours of the day and daylight and darkness equal. Temporal hours, which were first adopted by the Greeks and then Romans, who disseminated them through Europe, remain in use for more than 2,500 years. So we are talking about temporal hours here. So there was a creation of sundial. So I can write sundials here, right? Because in this paragraph, I'll get everything about sundials. And it used sun's shadow. The sundial's counterpart was water clock. So water clock. So I'll just write H2O clock. It was temporal hours at night. One of the first water clocks was a basin with a small, okay. The falling water level denoted the passing hour as it dripped below hour's line. Although the satellite around the Mediterranean, they could not always depend in the cloudy and often freezing weather of the northern Europe. So sometimes it was a fail as well. This is fast reading, just to let you know, right? That's why I'm reading fast. That's why I'm just skimming. I'm not reading every detail. So now there was mechanical clock, right? So I'm just writing mechanical, which to maintain temporal hours, but naturally suited to keep equal ones. With these, however, arose the question of when to begin counting. And so in the early and 14th century, a number of systems evolved. So day was divided into 24 equal parts and varied according to the star of the count. Italian hours began at sunset, Babylonian hours at sunrise, astronomical hours at midday, and great clock hours used for some larger public clocks in Germany at midnight. Okay, so French split it into 12-hour period. That is why they also have 24-hour clock, just general knowledge. The earliest recorded way-driven mechanical clock was built in 1283 in Bedfordshire in England. Okay, that transferred it was a part called the escapement. So it's talking about a part like escapement of the mechanical clock. Let me write mech clock. Then there was invention of coiled spring, right? And then the pendulum clock. So here we are basically talking about pendulum clocks. But pendulum swung in large arc and this was not very efficient. So pendulum was not efficient either, right? After this, we have to address this. A variation on the original escapement was invented in 1670. The motion of the pendulum rocked this device so that it can catches and then releases each to the other escape wheel. Unlike the original form used in the early pendulum clocks, the anchor escapement permitted the pendulum to travel in a very small arc. So anchor. So the use of anchor, right, for support. Okay, and then basically it's talking about anchor clock and the grandfather clock, which had like huge anchors, right? And today, highly accurate timekeeping instruments set the beat for most electronic devices. So we have electronic today. We have global positioning system as well, right? Which talks about the all mobile phones, they have integral time-based technology, right? And that's pretty much it. Okay. So a description of an early timekeeping affected by cold temperature. If you remember, we were talking about it, and it was affected by cold temperatures, right? If you remember, we were talking about the eastern that it was when we were talking about the solar and the water thing. So if we go back up, I mean, it's pretty here, a water clock, which was an often freezing weather of northern Europe. So this is where we'll get it, and the description of early timekeeping would be D. The expression of importance of geography in the development of calendar in farming communities, right? So when we are talking about farming, it would be here. So where was it? See, seasonal agriculture was practiced. So it would be B. Origins of pendulum clock, it's pretty easy. Pendulum clocks were spoken about here. Pendulum clock. So F. Details of the simultaneous effort of different societies to calculate time using uniform hours. It was the, I think, uniformity. I think it was the advent of mechanical clock where they wanted everything to be uniform, right? So I think it's E. So now we have to talk about the nationalities, who did what, right? So if you look at it, we have they devised a civil calendar in which months were equal in length. So I think it was the Egyptians, if I remember, right, where the months were equal in length. Let's just go back and take a look though here. So we had 12 months, and that's pretty much it. They were equal, formal and municipal calendar, right? Yeah, so months were equal in length, 30 days month. So it was Egyptians, right? So Egyptians are number B. They divided the day into two equal halves, if you remember. I think it was the French people. When I told you that 24-hour thing, they developed a new cabinet shape for a for a type of timekeeper. New cabinet shape. Cabinet shape, okay, let me see. I think cabinet shape was developed by uh I think here, liver-based device shaped like ship's anchor, a cabinet shape. It was developed by England. So I think it's the English people. D. They created a calendar to organize public events and work schedules. Okay. So public events. I think it was in the beginning. Coordinate communal activities. So yeah, here Babylonians began to measure time and coordinate communal activities. Communal means public. So Babylonians, which is A. Now we have this. If we remember how they explained this small arc, right, and how they talked about the 1670 liver-based device. So if we will take a look at the here, this paragraph is important here, right, because it talks about the pendulum, right? So let's just quickly read it again. The motion of the pendulum rocks this device so that it catches and then releases, and it's a variation of the original escapement. Okay. It was called anchor escapement, which was a lever-based device shaped like ship's anchor, right? The motion of pendulum rocks this device so that it catches and then releases each tooth of the escape wheel. Unlike the original form used in every pendulum clock, the anchor escapement permitted the pendulum to travel in very small arc. Okay, let's move back. escapement, resembling an anchor, first of all. This seems like to be, this is the teeth they were talking about, right? So this is the wheel, and this was the teeth or tooth. I mean, if it's just symbols for tooth. And this complete thing is the pendulum. And we also saw that it is going to beat each second, right? So it will move each second. And that's pretty much it. Like once you understand the whole concept, it's pretty easy. Um, then we have reading passage 2, questions 14 to 19. It has 7 paragraphs, A to G. Choose the correct heading for paragraph A and C to G from the list below. Write the correct number 1 to 10 in boxes 14 to 19 on your answer sheet. Okay. So we have to talk about what is paragraph C talking about, what is para D talking about, E, F, G. So C, D, E, F, G. Let's do one thing. Let us just go ahead and read these particular paragraph, right? So let's start from C. What is the topic about? Air traffic control. Okay. In 1940s, ATC Center could and did take advantage of newly developed radar and improved radio communication. Okay. It was only after creation of FAA that the full-scale regulation of America's airspace took place. And this was fortuitous, for the advent of jet engines suddenly resulted in large number of very fast planes, reducing pilots' margin of error and practically demanding some set rules to keep everyone well separated and operating safely in the air. Okay. So, radars, this is talking about that, and radio communication, right after Second World War, and the creation of FAA, right? It's talking about that. Then D, many people think that ATC consists of row controllers sitting in front of their radar screens at the nation's airport. This is a very incomplete part of picture. The FAA realized that the airscape of Iran would at any time have many different kinds of planes. Okay, in a variety of weather conditions. Okay, and we needed to, so it's talking about realizing about the weather conditions, right? So weather conditions. Okay, row controllers, and it's talking about some row controllers, right? And weather conditions. To meet this time, the following elements are put into effect. First, ATC extended over virtually the entire United States. In general, from 360 meters above the ground and higher, the entire country is blanketed by controlled airspace. Okay. So, okay, 350. Okay. So it's like it's talking about controlled airspace. Controlled airspace extends down to 215 meters. So, like, controlled airspace. It's talking about the controlling area. Controlled airspace is that airspace in which FAA regulation applies. Pilots are bound by few regulation. In this way, the recreational pilot who simply wishes to go for flying for a while without the restrictions imposed by FAA has only to stay in uncontrolled airspace. And basically, a certain amount in the air is controlled, and certain amount is not controlled. So it's just talking about pilots who want to fly for recreational purposes versus pilot who really want to be in a controlled situation. So there were some visual flying rules, right? And visual cues, poor visibility necessary of instrumental flight rules. So it's talking about all sort of rules, especially the visibility rules. Right, one clear day, a pilot in controlled airspace can choose VFR or IFR flight plan. So it's talking about the plans. A pilot can only choose to fly IFR if they possess an instrument rating which is above and beyond the basic pilot's license that must also be held. So IFR requires like extra credentials. Then it's talking about controlled airspace, which is divided into several different types, right? So it's all about controlled space. By the letters, uncontrolled airspace is designated as class F. So this is uncontrolled airspace, is class E. And then controlled one is class E, right? All airspaces above a certain level is class A. Operating in them, generally class E airspaces where one finds general aviation aircrafts. Okay, and commercial, okay, so class E, you can find general aircrafts. Now, when I'm reading, I'm just writing these notes for my understanding, right? Is that class A, all operations are IFR, so it's for like more advanced airplanes, and pilots must be instrument rated, skilled and licensed in aircraft instrument control. Okay. So three other types of airspaces, class D, C, and B. They govern the vicinity of airport, means the nearby of airport. They are small, municipal, medium-sized, metropolitan, like small planes, right? Um, and it's basically talking about all of this, and that is the only information we need for these questions here. So let's see. Paragraph C, what does paragraph C majorly talks about, right? If we look at paragraph C, or maybe paragraph A first of all. Paragraph A, what is it talking about? Uh, okay, we sort of missed it. So it's just talking about the establishment of Federal Aviation Administration and that how it has been increased. So paragraph A is talking about an accident which led to the development of FA. So I think it's the aviation disaster prompts action because it's an action that was taken. So I think A should be second part. Paragraph C. So paragraph C, we were talking about the radar, creation of FAA, and all of those things. There are a large number of very fast planes and newly developed radar. Okay, so let's see. So FAA and mhm. So I think but the system remained rudimentary, means it remained sort of easy to follow. So I think it should be oversimplified view. So C should be oversimplified view. Paragraph D. Paragraph D, we're talking about row of controllers. Incomplete part of the picture. If you realize that the airspace owner would anytime have many different kinds of planes for different purposes and weather conditions, right? So it's talking about altitudes. Altitudes are a reference to weather. Paragraph F. Here they are talking about extreme weather, unclear day, and all of those things. So poor visibility, clear days, and all of that. I think paragraph F would be weather conditions. So which is 8. Okay, why is my pen not working? And paragraph G, if we take a look at paragraph G, it's just classifying everything, right? So your categories, it's talking about categories, that's all. Now just the information, if you remember all of this, what we have read, The FAA was created as a result of the introduction of jet engines. Not really. FAA was created for some other reasons. It's written right in, it was created for radar and radio communication, right? Not jet engines. So it's false. The air control started after the Grand Canyon crash in 1956. So no, air traffic control, it does not started after any crash in 1956, right? It was just an it we don't know if it was an accident or what it was. It was not a crash really, it was just an accident, right? So we don't really know. So it's false too. Beacons and flashing lights are still used by, so for today what has been happening, it's not given really. Some improvements are made in the radio communication during World War II. This is true. We learned that it was after the World War II. Class F airspace is airspace which is below 365 and not near airports. So it is near airports. If I think it is not near airport. Let me just go up. If you're not sure, you can definitely go up and let's just focus on class F. Where is class F? Here. Oh, sorry. Uncontrolled has been designated class F, which control. Okay, so this is uncontrolled airspaces and not in the vicinity of airport. Okay, so this is true. So all airspace, this is true if we remember. Oh, sorry, wait, let me just take a look. All in class E must use IFR. Class E, it's general, and general class does not need an IFR, which is it's false. It can use both. A pilot entering class C airspace is flying over an average size city. Class C. Two-way intercontact radar has to do inter-class C. For example, all VFR pilot. So no, it does not really say a small city. No, I think it should be false. Let me still check. I'm a little bit unsure about. Okay, so these. Okay, class D, C, B govern the vicinity of airport. These are related to small, municipal, medium-sized, metropolitan. Sorry, I missed a point above. So it's medium-sized metropolitan, average-size city. It's true. This option is true then. Right. So basically, it's not an easy thing to do. Finding answers. It's pretty difficult, but it requires time and it requires speed reading. So again, I was reading really fast. And I would really this is something that will come with practice. You will have to focus only on the keywords. Again, start by marking, because if you are giving an online exam, probably this trick would of marking would not work, but you do have a rough paper with you. And if not, you can ask for it and you can write down your points. It's pretty easy, makes it very convenient, and you'll be able to complete your reading in no time and with less mistakes. So that was pretty much it for reading and how you can do it. We just had one last, I think, part C left, but I think that is something that you can practice on your own. We already did part one and part two, and you saw how we were able to manage the question and answers. Part three is something that you can take for homework and complete it and bring in the answers, and we can discuss it. So that's all for today. I'll see you in the next lesson.